Hello, my name's Nigel James. Do you remember this kind of vehicle, or even that kind of vehicle? Well, today we're going to look at Morris 1000 commercial vehicles. Well, you see the funniest things when you're cleaning windows, and none funnier than this Morris 1000 van, which is right behind me. Alan, it wasn't in this particular condition when you had it first, I don't think, was it?
No. I bought it as just a chassis cab, like it had been standing in someone's garage for 12 years. And I had the idea of purchasing one so that I could use it for the window cleaning business, like, you know.
And in its current state, it's actually doing you quite proud as well, isn't it, as a business?
Yes, it's really done me proud, like. Been using it for the last 6 months, and business is booming, as I say.
Excellent. Now, tell us, Alan, about the actual restoration work that went into this particular model itself.
Well, as I say, we started off with just the chassis cab, and overhauled the chassis to start with, welding and, you know, different things. Then started on the cab, done a bit of welding on the sills, and then took all the wings off, and just the usual sort of restoration things that you do, like, you know.
Yeah.
Repainted it. It's only brush painted it. It was never built as a showpiece, you know. It was just built solely just for the business of window cleaning, like, you know.
Yeah. In the state that we see it today, I mean, how much has actually been spent on it from the time that you took it from its old state?
It might surprise some people, but I call it a budget build.
Right.
I bought the actual chassis cab for £100. I bought another old car, rotten old car, for £50 to use some of the bits of it.
Right.
And I think by the time it was actually finished and on the road, I think it was owing about 650, something like that.
Oh, so quite a reasonably priced transformation then.
I've done all the work myself, you see, and I suppose that makes a difference, like, you know.
Yeah. Now, obviously, being a window cleaner, you need all the gear, you need the buckets.
Yeah.
Should we take a little wander around the back here, just to see what transformation's taken around at the rear of the vehicle? What have we got in here? We've got the
squeegees, buckets. Well, everything that I need for my job, like, is.
So it's all there.
Yeah, it's all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly all the equipment to keep the windows sparkling.
That's right.
I think you were saying as well, Alan, earlier that the scale. You had some difficulty with the scale of the model.
Well, the Morris never actually produced what you call a Luton-bodied van with a body going over the cab, and when I was making it, it was quite difficult to get the scale right. You know, you don't know whether it was making it too long, too tall, too wide. You know, but I kept messing about, and I think I've got it near enough right anyway.
It's certainly looking in remarkable condition today.
Yes, it's turned a few heads, as I say, on the round.
Yes.
And it's generated a lot of business. But as well, people will stop you just to have a rattle to you about it. You know what I mean?
To talking about the history of the vehicle.
Because you don't. On a day like today, you see there's plenty of Morris 1000 vans about, but in every day, you don't see many, do you now? Like not being used.
No.
You know.
No.
Commercially, like.
No, certainly not in this context, anyway. No. Yeah. Well, Alan, thanks for the moment. Thanks very much for talking to us.
Yeah, no problem.
My name is John Bowen. I worked for the Royal Mail for 40 years, and what you see here is a result of my retirement. This is a Morris 1000 van used by the post office, purchased in 1971, being that one of the last of the 2,000 the post office ever bought of this model. This was delivered to Cardiff as a part of that 2,000, and of course Cardiff withdrew it and geared it up for driver training, which is as you see it today. I acquired the vehicle after visiting a Pontedilai show late on in 1998. When I saw the vehicle in the state it was in, I knew straight away it was ex-Royal Mail, but of course, having spoken to the present owner at the time, he didn't know what he owned, and I was determined that this one was for me. Now at the time, the vehicle was fitted with large wheels. It was used to carry a drum kit around to certain gigs. This is what the past owner had bought it for, and it suited his purpose. At the time, of course, it wasn't for sale. I left him my telephone number. Within a month he was ringing me asking if I was still interested in the van, and of course I was, but a price had to be arranged. Eventually we shook hands on the price and the vehicle was mine. After a lot of research via the Post Office Vehicle Club, I eventually found out the full history of the vehicle. I was able to give them the registration and they could tell me the rest, i.e. what type of logo I should have on it. I should have special permission to use the Queen's crowns. It was a dual control vehicle, and the list goes on. Going back to the purchasing time, when I saw this vehicle in Pontedilai in this show, I knew straight away when I saw the two roof vents that this was definitely something special. This vehicle never ever went round delivering to farms, but it was purely used for driver training purposes. When I say that, when a junior postman became the age of 18, he would be taught to drive by the post office's own driving instructor, and this is the vehicle he would have been taught in, and the vehicle he would also have driven to try his test in. So he would have got quite familiar in the fortnight that he had in it of its workings. Up front you'll see the small mirror the driver instructor would use for his rear vision to keep an eye on anything approaching from the rear. When we get into the driving compartment, I will also show you one or two things that the post office would have fitted themselves purely to ease the burden on the young 18-year-old who was being taught to drive. When I became 18 and I was ready to drive for the post office, they would tell me when I'd be wanted for driving instruction. And the driving instructor would arrive with this vehicle and he'd talk to me, ask me my name, get acquainted with me, and before we left the depot he would instruct me to put the L plates on the vehicle, which is what I'm now doing. Now the vehicle was ready to leave the depot and away we'd go for our first coffee stop, which would be only a mile down the road. During the earlier times in my career with the post office, back in the early 60s and 70s, the Morris 1000 was the 50 cubic foot van that the post office used over and over again. It was totally reliable, not possibly the best vehicle for the driver, but of course you had to live with things in the 60s. You didn't have the modern day equivalent. The Morris 1000 van itself lasted, I would say, from 1960 going through to 1977, when this particular vehicle was taken out of service. I myself drove these for the best part of 8 years, and they would take me to farm lanes and farms where perhaps other vehicles would not have a hope in any way of getting there. And of course, during the snow, you had your special tyres on the rear, town and country. The driver was expected to fit his own chains out in the country if hit by bad weather, and we always got through.
Well, from post office training vans to post office telephones now. Pete Finch is with me. Pete, here's a remarkable van. How old is it?
1971, this one, the last year they were manufacturing Morris Thousands. Although it was registered in about August 71, we don't know exactly when it was built because the post office bought them in by the thousand and stored them until they actually needed them and then registered them.
I suppose really they were workhorses really, weren't they, in their day?
That's right, it was the everyday workhorse. Everyone was using them, the post office used them by the thousands, and every high street business, every corner shop used them. That's
Yeah.
what they were.
I see on the side there we've got telephone manager London South Central area. Does this particular van have a district that you know of?
Well, from the research that we've managed to do, we found out that that's the last area it was allocated to when it came out of service. It was London South Central area, so that's why I've restored it to that area livery. Because each van carried the telephone manager's area on it so that you knew where the van was allocated to.
Yeah. What's the relevance of that serial number there, Pete, starting with 71 on the top left?
Every post office vehicle had a unique fleet number, so that it was often never referred to by its registration number as we do nowadays. It would have been referred to by its fleet number. So all the records within the post office, any repairs done on it, any cost, would have been allocated to a number like that.
Ah, I see. So that was its in-house serial number then?
Their fleet number for it, yeah.
Uh-huh. The signs on the side, I see we've got Busby there as well. Very much...
The old Busby.
The old Busby, of course, very much a trademark of the old British Telecom as we remember it going back over the years. That sign is in remarkable condition. How many companies in the country are making these?
One, as far as I know.
Just one?
Just the one. There's a guy who does it as a sideline to his main business, and he will do the artwork. I think he does about half a dozen different variants, because both the engineers' vans and the Royal Mail vans carried them, post early for Christmas, last posting day before Christmas,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So they were used.
So how does he get the designs? Does he have photographs of old vans?
Some he's done, I believe, from originals.
Yeah.
And some he's restored from photographs of archive pictures of the day.
Yeah.
And some he's had to improvise on because he's got half of the poster, the other half's missing, so he's had to rebuild the image.
Yeah. Yeah. Just moving around to the rear of the van here, Pete. Obviously, in its heyday, this would have been, as I said earlier, very much a workhorse
Yep.
of BT. We've got some old equipment in there as well, I notice.
Yes, all the engineers' vans were kitted out with the racks on the side for spares, telephones, manuals, whatever. And they all had the screen to divide the rear half, the cargo area of the van, from the cab area, so that things didn't go whistling into the front if things went wrong.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as we know it, would this van have been sort of mainly, working on domestic and installing phones, or would it have been a mixture of both, people up the old telegraph poles?
It would have been a mixture of both, because the ladder rack on the top should carry a three-section aluminium ladder, just long enough to get them up to where the footsteps start on the telegraph poles.
Yes.
The
yes.
steel steps start part
Yes, I
way
remember
up.
those.
They used to carry a three-section aluminium ladder to get them up to that height, and then carry on up. The inside, where you see the loop hanging down there, that's where there used to be an internal ladder, a small one for inside use, domestic use.
Yes.
So, just like your normal step ladder used for decorating.
Well, it's certainly in mint condition here, Pete, as we see it. Did it need a lot of work doing to it?
Initial looks at it, it didn't look too bad, but the more you took off, the more you tried to do to it, the more it needed doing. So basically it's had all the floors replaced in the back end. There's been a lot of chassis welding done to it, and obviously complete respray to bring it back into the correct colour, because it was a funny shade of white when I bought it.
Was it? Yeah. Finally, Pete, engine-wise, how was it like on economy? Was it a good?
I mean, especially for its day, I mean, you were getting 30 to 40 to the gallon out of a 1100cc engine, and in the 60s and 70s that was economic.
Yes.
I mean, I know we can get those sort of mileages out of much larger high-performance engines nowadays, but in those days, to get that sort of mileage, it was an economic engine, the old A-series engine.
Yes. Yeah.
My name's Andy Bowen. I was involved with the local Morris Minor Owners Club, partly because I've got such an interest in Morris Minors, and this is one of them. This is my wife's van, really speaking, not mine, but we bought it for her new business, and this is an ex-GPO van being converted for an everyday van. We bought it in London about 18 months ago. Since then we put a new engine in it and put new tyres on it, and it's generally tidied it up a bit. It runs with disc brakes. One of the things it has got is a plastic roof. The old roofs used to rot out, and so somebody came up with a bright idea and sticking a plastic roof on it. So that's the basic thing. It's nice and comfy with modern seats in it, and it's got disc brakes. That's all it is.
Well, the expression home from home rings a bell when I look at this next model. Richard, you don't often see many of these, do you, on people's drives?
No, it's the only one in existence. Yes, it was made in about 1972 by a chap in Wolverhampton, and lived most of his life in Bilston, and I found it as a wreck in Redditch about 4 years ago, and we renovated it for our honeymoon in Ireland last year.
Was there much renovation needed on it?
Oh yes, extensive. It was all the woodwork inside the caravan was dry rotted, so we replaced nearly 100% of the woodwork, and all the carpet rotted completely away, and we replaced a lot of the new metal.
Was there a great deal of money needed in that renovation, Richard?
No, I've got a very good friend who's an expert at welding and renovation, and we actually chopped half of a saloon car to put a new front end on, and so the front roof and window and everything came from a donated car.
What's it like handling-wise? I mean, it looks pretty, to me, to drive something like that would seem to be a little bit sort of unwieldy, but is it...
No, it's all right as long as you drive no faster than 50 miles an hour, because it's on the motorway, the high-sided vans and things start to pull you over a bit. But it's been going for 30 years, so it's not tipped over yet, so it's not likely to, yes.
And suspension-wise, was there much needed on the back there, because we've got such a large caravan attached?
Yeah, somebody's made 13 leaf springs, and if to give you an idea, the most that you normally find in a van is 8 leaves, and on a saloon it's 5. So this has got 13 leaf springs on it, so it's very, very substantial.
So it's quite a rigid design then.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any other features, Richard, that you can tell us about it? I mean, obviously it's one of these classic cars. Any other features that you can relate?
Yeah, well, it must have been driven by a midget because I've actually cut the back open to allow the seat back, but the seats were really very squashed forward, and the beds were 2 sort of 3-foot beds, and that was it originally. Now I've converted it so there's a full 6-foot double bed inside it. So it's much more comfortable, but it's very comfortable, and we use it most weekends.
Yeah. Well, as I said at the start of our introduction here, I mean, obviously Home from Home rings a bell. I mean, you've obviously got the awning on the front there. Ideal for touring, I would have thought.
Yes, very nice. As I say, as long as you're prepared to amble along at 40, 45 miles an hour, it's excellent. Yes.
Yeah. But then if you're going on holiday, that's the sort of speed you ought to be travelling, I suppose.
Yes. And it's got a cooker in as well, so it's got a gas lighting in there. It's yeah, very nice.
Right.
Now, with regards to this vehicle, it's been decked out as a bomb disposal. Bomb disposal was the Royal Engineers of the British Army type. The other was run by the Ordnance, which is smaller explosive, like shells and all. The colour of this was done basically more or less for the fun of it with my brother and myself. It was done green at one time, and we did not want a green vehicle because there are superstitions through the garage trade about anything that's all green. So jokingly I said to my brother, paint the wings red and make it a bomb disposal. Well, I goes home to lunch, and when I come back, the vehicle now has red wings, and that's how it has stayed ever since. It's been an interesting vehicle going around the shows. It catches a lot of eyes. I know I get pulled up for it. It's not exactly what it should be, but I get noticed. Maybe one day I will have a proper one, but time will tell. We got the vehicle, it's the time to put it in roadworthy condition. It's a unique vehicle in the fact that the back end here is all fiberglass. We now have a fiberglass skin door, which was my own idea, and I worked on it, and I now have the molds for it. It carries fiberglass wings, a front grille surround, and a valance. I'm a strong believer in the fiberglass because rust is our biggest nightmare with the older vehicles, and it is more cost effective to replace should you have a mishap with it. Half the price makes it you can have 2 mishaps and you're still in pocket. I know it's not original, but it looks right. Everybody's happy with it, and the people that follow me around and come and talk about it really think it's the real thing, and they're quite happy with it. The left-hand side, the mould, I supplied the original panel for the mould for that. It was done by Henricks, and for the length of the panel we had a cheaper body, and that's why we got it. It was a very good thing. We got no worry about rust. It's quieter, it's lighter, and it helps a lot. People have asked me if I want to sell it. I quote them a price and they walk away because they don't think it's, well, I don't really think it's worth it, or they just can't afford it. But to me, it's worth every penny of it. The insurance are quite happy to give me a good price on it. Should anything happen to it, I lose it, or it gets written off. Because to build one back to it will cost more than what the insurance company will give us, because finding one to start with, as it was Henricks done it, they're now out of business as such. So who got the mould to make a new back end? Your guess is as good as mine. So one day somebody might come up and make metal ones, but I don't think they'll be as good as this, because as I say, rust is the biggest nightmare of them, especially around this part of it here. They all rust very badly around the guttering. And people look at mine and they say, God, how do you keep it like that? Of course, I have to tell them the truth, it is fiberglass. If the other parts of it now we go on to, are the fact that it runs on LPG, liquid propane gas. Done for the reason that I go to a lot of rallies and fuel was getting far, far too expensive. So to do as many rallies as I done last year, I have now converted to gas. So therefore, we can show you a little bit of it. It's half the price, as I said, of petrol. The mileage is about the same. The performance slackens off on hills. You've got to go back to driving as you did in the 40s and 50s and go down the box before you mount the hill. Because once you've lost your revs, you've lost your speed. Basically, there's not much to show on you. There's a valve there for shutting off the petrol and letting the gas through. This part here is a pump which pumps the gas and heats it through the water that runs on the engine. So first thing in the morning it is sluggish, but as soon as it warms up it vaporizes better, we get a better performance all around. There are other little things here like a filter. There is a gauge in there that runs on lights, 4 lights for a full tank, and I say 2 lights for half and 1 for a quarter. Red light to show when you're on reserve. There's a yellow light to show that you're running on gas, and a red light to show that you switched over to fuel. It's a 3-position switch, and you don't have to stop or get out or do anything. All you got to do is wait for the carburetor to fill up should you require petrol. This vehicle, I've not bought petrol for it since November 2000. We haven't put any petrol through the engine since January 2001, when we rebuilt the engine again. It was converted for lead-free fuel, and you have to have a lead-free head because of the heat. It runs a lot hotter on gas than it do on any other fuel. We learnt this from the people down at Swansea, the local council, because they were running them and going to a cinema, they had a lot of problems with the staff worrying about the heat of the vehicles, but apparently it's quite normal. And the radiator on a Morris Minor is far bigger than it's required. As they say, it's over-engineered, it's overcooled, so we shouldn't have no problems there. Electric washers fitted by myself, alternator, and the servo down there, brake reservoir, and using that with silicon brake fluid. Not everybody's cup of tea, but if the Americans can use it since 1944 in their military vehicles, and the Harley Davidsons have always used it, and we all seem to follow America, so why not with a little thing like that? Dearer, yes, but then I haven't bought any replacement cylinders for corrosion since, and this vehicle is now into its 6 years, done 60,000 miles, and I hope it'll go on now for a lot longer. Buying gas is one of the limited things. You have to know where you to go for it. This is why we still carry on with petrol being attached to it. But I can start it in the mornings. It needs no choke. It just needs to turn it over once or twice, let it go, and then fire it up again, and it fires up then the next time without any problem, and it runs. It's cleaner, it's not so many oil changes. It's environmental friendly, as they call it, and that's why it's called the Green Goddess. That was on the front cover of the Morris Minor Monthly.
Well, Dave Thomas, you're the founder of the Minor LCV Register. There must be an amazing history, I would have thought, to the society.
There is. We're finding more and more out all the time. You know, it's the minor vans and the pickups, the LCV means Morris Light Commercial Vehicle, you see, that's what LCV stands for. They've always been the poor relation of the old Moggy range, Morris Minors. And like any commercial vehicle, they've always been well used. And when Fred Smith wanted his new van and everything, Escort or Vauxhall or anything like that, the old Moggy just got thrown away. And it wasn't until sort of the early 90s that people started realising that there are not many left in comparison to the number of cars. And even now there's about 44,000 Morris Minor cars, but we estimate, what, 2,000 vans and pickups.
So how long has the society actually been running?
We started, what, 93, I think, actually. Just a few of us got together and I started taking registrations and Russell came on the scene and, yeah, 93. So what, 10 years now?
So it's been running quite some time.
Yeah, 30 hours a week work.
So what would you say is the passion, Dave? What drives you to have an interest in these vehicles?
The commercials of the Morris Minors, I think, is the fact that there's so much variety. Cars, there's been a passion for cars for years. Four-door saloons, the drop heads and everything. But they're all pretty standardised. The commercials, they came off the line not just as vans or pickups, they came off the line as kits. So there's no standardisation. They had chassis cabs as well. So fleets of them came off as chassis cabs and they painted in their own colours, for instance, at certain times. There were standard colours, and many of them, but there's so many variations. And the joy is that no one can say something is not genuine. And the joy also, in fact, you can have a tatty one like mine, even tattier around, believe it or not, or a pristine one, like many on site here. And nobody cares two monkeys' uncles, really, because the joy is of the vehicle itself. And you don't tend to get that with cars.
No.
You know,
no.
it's strange.
Now, finding out about their history, Russell, your colleague here, you must have gone back quite a way in the past to find out about these, Russell, I would have thought.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot recorded on them in any one given place. It's been an uphill struggle. I wrote a book on them, which was published last year, on all about Morris Minor light commercial vehicles. But trying to get photographs of these things from the 1970s and the 60s is very, very difficult. You're virtually reliant on members or private people's actual photographs. Trying to get anything from archives they're just not there anymore.
If you were trying to find out a particular item about a vehicle, I mean, how would you actually post that information to the nation? How would you say?
Yeah, we've got our own website now, which was sort of, well, it's been up and running about a year, 18 months now. Originally, it was done by my son, who got us online because he's the computer whiz compared to us two. We're just dinosaurs, but we use them. We use them all the time now, and we've got a web page which is regularly visited from everyone around the world. We got members from around the world.
Is that right?
Yeah, oh yeah, lots of members. We got a large sort of contingent in Scandinavia now, Australia, New Zealand, the States. We've even got some guy in, is it Chile? We've got 2 pickups or something.
Everywhere.
So
New Zealand.
They went everywhere.
Yep.
And anyone interested in watching, the website address is www.minorlcv.com.
That's the one.
Yeah. And the email address is lcvreg@aol.com. So you say that people around the world are visiting your site?
Absolutely. We have a very active message board where you get people will want to know a particular item, a particular question. They can post it on the message board, and it's normally sort of answered within hours. If anyone here has got a problem, they want to know what to do with a particular part of one of these, put it on the message board, and someone will have encountered their problem, and it's dealt with. Yeah. And it works well. It's you go on that and visit that. You can ask a question, leave a message, do whatever you want with it, as Dave said, as long as it's clean.
So it's a wealth of information then, really.
Oh yeah.
For the minor.
See, one problem we did have chasing the history of these vehicles, that the factory burnt down in '66. No, somewhere anyway, and took all the records.
So really.
So all the basics that we tend to try and look for chassis numbers as a guide to production dates and everything like this, and we've got to do a little bit of assumption because a lot of the records just went. And we just cannot find cross-references. We've got many weird and wonderful types sent abroad and that. We can't make any real inroads to their chassis numbers or when they went or anything like this. And we'll get there.
So anybody watching that has got some information, presumably they could send you.
Yes. Oh yes, please.
They could send you an email or whatever. Visit the website and give you the information that you.
It's the photographs is our big sort of plea. A lot of the electricity boards up and down the United Kingdom, the gas boards, the water authorities, local councils, they all use these things in their droves, but we just cannot get any photographs.
The other thing that has been a turnaround, in the old days they were used and sign written by people for large firms, SCBs and everything like this, and now there's a resurgence of people are seeing these vehicles again and they're being used as working adverts.
Like the window cleaner that you interviewed earlier.
And,
of course, yeah.
They're getting business from it again.
Yeah,
you know, and it's marvellous. It's gone around full circle.
So it has gone. It has gone full circle. Yeah.
And you know, trying to find them these days is getting a bit. It's not easy.
The milk float was to be a short-term rebuild, but it ended up being a 16-year project, mostly because we sold the parts. Saying that, it had 3 engines and never went out of the workshops. And the back suspensions, I can't count how many of them we changed on Saturday or Sunday afternoons to help somebody out of a mess. But it slowly got done. The best part about it is that it had to fit the original back end that we had. But to make the seating more comfortable, we wanted to replace the back of the cab, which is known as the bubble. So to get that in, we had to have 5 inches let into the chassis. Now, jokingly, I said to Hendrix, could they make the chassis 5 inches longer in the centre? And they said, no problem. And they done it. Because I'd already purchased a left-hand drive steering rack from GS Jones in Shrewsbury then. They were at Shrewsbury, and they were going cheap at £25. Brand new, unused. And you just went on from there. You just build a bit, take a bit off, build a bit, carry on, until in the end it got to the stage where we said, right, enough's enough, no more parts coming off that, no matter how desperate we are. The left-hand drive reason being it was milk, so you could step out onto the curb and you didn't have to worry about traffic. It helped a lot. It saved time in all. Plus the fact it was a good advert because nobody else went round with left-hand drives in them days. Centre-driven vehicles with electrics was a known thing, but to have a left-hand drive was the ultimate. It was a good publicity thing. And being Morris Minor, but now the one we have is badged Austin, exactly the same vehicle, but just a change of name. This one was originally a pickup in Prussian blue. No, sorry, Persian blue. Of course, we then added to our own colours. It's now got to the stage where it's only going to be for shows. It has everything pretty well standard on it. The standard 1098 engine, a replacement silver seal gearbox which I bought in 1984, which I didn't want, but it was at the right price from the local agents. They begged me to take it and I said I had no money. So they said, how much you got on you? They had what I had in my pocket. I was quite happy at that because, believe me, it was less than half price of buying it normally. It just went on and on, this vehicle did, until we finally finished it. Basically in 2000, it went out on the road to the paint shop. Since then, it's been MOT'd, taxed, and I have done 40 mile in it. It's going to be for shows now more than anything. Not many people have seen it. Everybody is waiting to see it. The first big outing will be at Lichfield at the Morris Minor show for their 25-year anniversary of the club. And the next big one then will be the Lord Mayor's show in November up at London. The colours on it are now Nissan Blue an American antique cream. They were not the colours I chose, but believe me, the inside and the outside are both sprayed in the two different colours of makes of paint, but you can't see the difference. It carries servo brakes, a reservoir for the brake fluid, an alternator, H4 headlamps, an automatic reversing light. And beyond that, everything is just been built on parts. It's the best of I can think of. It's the only one like it in the world. So hopefully a lot more people will ask me to do things, and so I can show it a lot more. Because other than that, what else can you use it for? It's not going back on the milk round, because milk rusts them away. Although it's aluminium, wood and some bits of fiberglass in it. But no, it'll never go out in the snow and get all the salt from the road on it. It took 16 years to build, it's got to last me 20 years. By then I expect I'll stop driving, or the government will stop me driving.
Well, here's a little gem. It's a Morris 1000 van. Richard is with me again. Richard, this isn't the only one you've got though, is it?
No, I've got 2 pickups, 2 vans, 2 convertibles, and a traveller. So I've got, the only thing I haven't got are any saloons at the moment. Yes, I wanted a pickup, and this was a wreck just over a year ago. And I bought 2 pickups complete, and I thought I'd make one very good one out of the 2. And this was just going to be donating parts, but my friend said, well, it's complete, I can see what's what on it, I'd rather work on this one. So we worked on this one, and yet my convertible cost me £7,500, and this one owes me a grand total of £700, inclusive the purchase price. So, and I use it every day to go back and forth to work from Walsall to the other side of Birmingham. And it's a very, very useful little vehicle, and it's not just for shows. I use it, that is my everyday vehicle.
So it's your runaround?
Yes, yes, and yeah, and it does a tremendous amount of work.
Richard, as an owner of all those Morrises, what motivates you, what interests you in Morris as a particular model?
Because you can work, I like them because I can do anything on them. My father was a mechanic and I never bothered with cars, and then he died 5 years ago, and I've had to do my own mechanics, but they're so simple to work on. I can prepared to do anything from changing an engine, a clutch or a gearbox. I can do that. On a modern car it would be straight off to the garage, and there's just something about them. It's everybody knows somebody who's owned one, or their mother's owned one, or their auntie's owned one, or their granddad owned one. It's just always a topic of conversation wherever you go. Yeah.
So there's always a story to tell about the Morris. Yeah. This particular model, Richard, what sort of applications would this have been for? Would you have thought on the commercial side?
A lot of farmers bought these, and builders, and the reason you don't find many of them about, because they were abused, and bricks and rubble and everything were thrown in the back of them and they were knocked about. So you don't find many pickups now with the original steel backs.
Yeah. This one's in pristine condition. How long did this take to bring it up to its current status?
About a month.
Oh, that wasn't long.
No, I've got a very good friend. He's a lawyer actually by profession, but his interest is classic cars and restoration, and there's 9 square metres of metal went into that. But we cut every scrap of inch of rust out of it, and it's now a very, very solid and very reliable original vehicle.
Just looking at this this wooden frame here, is this the original?
Yes.
The original wood?
Original ash, yes.
Ah, so I was going to ask you actually, this is actually made of ash then?
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh. So it's looking in remarkable condition. Yeah. The engine size, obviously this is the standard...
Standard 1098 engine.
1098 engine.
Yes.
And we were talking earlier to the owner of the Post Office Telephones van. Economy-wise, of course, they were quite good, weren't they, in their day?
Yes, they do about 35 to the gallon.
Yeah.
Which is... some people say they can get a 40, 42 to the gallon, but I don't achieve that. I get about 30, 35 to the gallon, which is good enough.
This is my other car. It's an Austin stroke Morris pickup. It's for the people who know that it was just a badge engineering. The 840 on the, not the 840, the 835. When they stopped doing commercial production, they wanted another one, so they approached the Morris people and see if they can have one of their own cars. And so the only difference is it's a badge and a different grille, but maybe another sticker on the engine saying Austin, and that's all it is. Basically, it's the same thing as a Morris Minor 1000. That's it. This car was completely restored for the 1998 50th anniversary held at Blenheim Palace. It took about 3 years to do. Completely resprayed, everything was done. Chassis, wheels, even a different coloured tilt cover, even down to the seats, carpets. Everything was done just for the 50th anniversary. This type of vehicle was used extensively by farmers who used to take milk churns or hay or anything around them for the use. So had to always take the tilt and the hoops off. But it used to be used as a recreational vehicle as well. Tradesmen used them. It used to be a multi-purpose vehicle. The only thing it couldn't do was go across open. Well, it could go across open fields, but not muddy fields. But it's, you know, it was a damn good tradesman's vehicle. It could do practically anything. As regards to this vehicle, now it's been restored. We use it mainly for shows, specialist shows as well, which is the LCV, Morris LCV Club. We go to their shows. One big show is the Dorset Steam Fair, which is just purely commercial land. You know, we have about a stand of maybe 50 vehicles, so just vans and just pickups, just to show off the market, what different types of vehicles you can get just on this chassis. The reason why I think I got the old Morris Minor is because I learned to drive on one. I passed my test on one. I ran one for years when I was in college, with all sorts of different adventures. And basically you can get anything you want for these vehicles. Whereas the roof, you can get them in plastic now, you can get wings in plastic, you can get the back end of any of these in plastic. You can do all sorts, and you can do all sorts of modifications to them. And not to the detriment of the vehicle. You can put disc brakes on them, you got stainless steel exhausts, all sorts of things you can do with them, but still have a basic Morris Minor.
Well, we talked earlier about the advertising and the promotional aspects of these Morris commercial vehicles. Here's a prime example. Brian, you remember this one in its original state, I think, don't you?
Yes, I actually worked for the company, and when they decided to sell it, I bought it as a tax write-off and used it until it failed an MOT miserably and decided at some stage over the intervening years to renovate it and try and make it look as it would have looked when it was actually doing its job, its daily job as parts motor.
So that's the kind of work it would have been involved in then?
Yes, well basically all it did was it ferried parts in between the different departments, because it was PJ Evans at the time in the 70s was a very big company, and all the time, because it had a service department or several service departments, there was always a need for speedy replacement of parts for vehicles that were in the service department or customers wanting urgent spares. So this motor was the one that actually was the one that had to do all the work.
So this was the workhorse?
This was the workhorse. It actually bragged at one stage of its career that it used to double up as a recovery vehicle. When the recovery vehicle was out and her Jaguar broke down, or something like a Jaguar, it used to be hustled out, and believe it or not, it used to pull Jaguars in.
Now, something quite remarkable on the sill here. We've got the P.J. Evans of Birmingham logo, if you can call it. The sill itself is in remarkable condition. What's the story here, Brian?
Well, the P.J. Evans of Birmingham label should, strictly speaking, only have been fitted to the kick strip on a Rolls-Royce.
Oh, right.
But because I work for the Rolls-Royce department, I thought to myself, well, those look rather nice on my finished van.
So you put it on there?
So I sort of hid them away, and when I'd finished it, I decided to put those on the sills because I thought it was just another interesting little feature of the van.
And we've got some of the original interiors here as well, haven't we? Is this the original
yes, all
door moulding?
The door panel, which is just Communal Garden hardboard, and all the interior cab, including the seats and the cargo box, it's all original, including the mileage of about 87,000 miles.
I noticed the gear stick as well. Is that its original wood?
No, I acquired that again, and it's only basically because it's got a BMC emblem on the top, and I thought it was appropriate because it was just at the time that the factory was going BMC British Leyland, so I decided it'd be a nice touch.
One thing I did spot, Brian, earlier on, now this is quite a rarity in fact, isn't it? The sun visor. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, well actually it is a metal sun visor, and it is an original which was supplied by BMC as an official approved accessory, as they called it. They're getting increasingly rare now, and it does serve a purpose. It's because it's got such a deep windscreen. When the sun shines on occasions, you get quite blinded because the visors aren't the actual sun visors that hinge down inside aren't very good, so it screens you from the sun as well.
So it's got quite a useful purpose then,
yes.
for this vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of top speed would it get up to, Brian? Would it be a nifty little motor?
Well, in its day, I've been told by the lad that used to look after it, the mechanic at P.J. Evans, that he had about 90 plus out of it on the clock.
Really?
And the stop needle on the right-hand side of the gauge is actually bent. So I don't know how long he held it at that top speed, but it actually bent the stop needle.
So it's had a fair old hammering in its time.
Yeah,
then.
it is actually. People are quite surprised. They are quite nippy because basically they're just an empty box, and they've got 1,100 engines in the later ones, and they are quite peppy. And the pickups are probably even quicker if you can keep the back ends on the road.
Yeah. One final thing, Brian. Now this must be quite common to all Morris Minors, I would think. The exhaust there. It's on the side, it's not at the back,
yes.
Is it?
I don't know why, whether it's anything to do with the law, but all Morris Minor vans and pickups, originally the exhaust tailpipe came out on the right-hand side. But believe it or not, it actually starts in the same place as the car, and it comes right across the car to the right-hand side. If you look at a car, you'll find, and the travellers, you'll find that the exhaust comes straight out the back on the left-hand side. But on the vans, I don't know why, but that's just the way it's always been, and it makes a lovely sound as well.
Can we hear it start up?
Certainly can.
Because it's often with our reports, we're always very static, but it's nice to hear an engine start up for a change. Well, what an amazing array of Morris 1000 commercial vehicles we've seen today. We hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. But from me, Nigel James, until the next time, it's goodbye.